All right, joining us are our guests Sanjay Bhattacharya and Shashwat Kumar. Mr. Bhattacharya is a former Indian ambassador to Egypt, Turkey and Switzerland. Mr. Kumar is a fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, D.C. Also joining us momentarily would be Atul Keshup. He is the president of the Washington, D.C. based U.S.-India Business Council. Is a former U.S. diplomat who has served in India. Gentlemen, welcome to this special broadcast. If I can start with you, Ambassador Bhattacharya, what would the two leaders discuss when they meet in a short while from now?
I'm sorry, the sound is not coming through.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's better.
Great. Good to have you join this broadcast, Ambassador Bhattacharya. I meant to ask you, what would the two principals, Prime Minister Modi and President Trump, would they be discussing when they meet in a short while from now?
Well, as you know, the Prime Minister and President Trump have a very special relationship. They have engaged in the past as well when President Trump was in his first tenure. And there was a very solid partnership that had been built up at that time. So this visit acquires very specific importance because Prime Minister is going to be one of the earliest foreign leaders to meet with President Trump. There are a range of issues on the two sides would wish to cooperate. And to my mind, the key issues would be on trade, technology, on security, and on strategic cooperation.
Right. Mr. Kumar, coming to you now as someone who has been tracking India-US relations from very close quarters. India, we are told, enjoys bipartisan support in the US. So can we expect continuity in US policies towards India? No major changes or radical departures from the past?
No, I don't think there would be any radical departures from the past. In fact, if you look at the relationship, the way it has evolved over past 25 years, it's been an incremental growth, which has been added each year. Some new area for cooperation have been introduced in this partnership. So it has a very solid, I would say, a base and a background for this partnership. So I don't expect, it's a partnership which I would say it did not start with a bang and just fizzled away. It has built on a strength from every year, from every administration. So we expect the continuity. Also, I would say that in this particular meeting between Prime Minister and the President Trump, as Ambassador Bhattacharya pointed out, there would be 4 to 5 areas of engagement. But my sense is it would be a roadmap that both leaders would engage on because it's still very early in Trump administration. The confirmations for these cabinet level secretaries are still happening. So at this point, it makes sense that both leaders agree on a framework for a roadmap for over next 4 to 5 years of engagement, and that's what I expect at the end of this meeting. Say in maybe an hour and a half from now, a joint statement when they will be given. I expect something on these lines, announcements to be.
Fair enough. On that note, may I, Ambassador Bhattacharya, dive straight into what we've heard most recently from a U.S. official who was engaging in a background briefing with journalists covering the Prime Minister's ongoing visit to the US. And if I can quote from a relevant news report, it says the Trump administration wants to, 1, bring down the US trade deficit with India. Number 2, have a fair bilateral trade deal. 3, build on defense sales. 4, prioritize American technology, and number 5, sign a new defense framework. Your thoughts on some of these issues that the U.S. official has said just moments ago?
Yes, exactly. I think the priorities from both sides will converge, particularly when we look at the issues pertaining to our economic cooperation as well as our strategic coordination in the new times. On the economic cooperation, obviously, there are 2 elements that I think would be significant. The first would be of the trade relations. As you are aware, our trade partnership is quite high, though the Americans have sometimes complained that the trade balance is not quite in their favor. and there is probably some wiggle room on that, and tariffs would be one of the issues that could come up for discussion in that particular context. In this context also, what is important to note is that the US has become increasingly a larger energy partner of India. And this includes both the hydrocarbon sector as well as the non-fossil fuels. So I would expect that this is something that will go in accordance with our objectives on the energy transformation that we are also seeking to achieve. Linked to this would also be the kind of defense relationship, because over time, in recent years in particular, we have been acquiring larger amounts of US military hardware. And so that is something that could actually be propped up. There are many new ideas that have come about on the table, and some of those would definitely be discussed tomorrow. But I think the biggest prospect is the way in which our technology cooperation go forward. We have come together on the critical and emerging technologies in order to make sure that our value and supply chains remain reliable and effective and efficient. And these are some of the areas where I expect there would be much more significant. And, if you had to look at the breakthroughs, so to say, these would be the areas where a lot of discussion has already taken place, but we could get to the next level. And of course, finally, I think related to the defense aspects would be the emergence of the Indo-Pacific and how we take that idea forward. That would be another very significant thing that I would wish to mention at this point.
Indeed. And before I delve into the specifics of the India-US bilateral ties, namely defense and security, trade and investment, people-to-people ties, energy security, science and technology, and so on and so forth, Mr. Kumar, if I can come back to you very briefly for your comment on what the unnamed official said with regard to another key issue. And here I am paraphrasing this official. He or she says, we expect continued cooperation with India on potential Chinese security issues. Can we expect the talk to focus also to some extent on the Indo-Pacific in general and China in particular?
Certainly, US and India, security concerns against China, and especially when it comes to supply chains. And this is something which cuts across all the sectors, especially clean energy and technology. A pivot away from China has been a cornerstone of US-India relationship. And given that the Trump administration's current picks are China hawks, I expect the continuity to be there on that angle. And which also brings me to the fact that I think also Mr. Bhattacharya pointed out on the clean energy part. I will add that, in addition to hydrocarbons, nuclear will also be in a big way on the table between the two countries, and the trade transfer for technology. India needs a lot of clean technology for its own needs. Manufacturing needs to happen. And we have seen in the past that US-led Development Finance Corporation has supported a build-out of manufacturing facilities in India by First Solar and Tata Power. So I expect on these lines the continuity to be there, and a lot of these asks from India on the US, because pivot away from China is something which has brought these two countries together, and it's going to be an axis on which cooperation will continue.
Right, so we've heard your opening remarks, Mr. Kumar and Ambassador Bhattacharya. I'll come back to you momentarily. I want to go across to my colleague Shubhendu Ghosh, who is standing by in Washington, D.C. as we speak. Shubhendu, if you can hear me, can I begin by asking about your thoughts before we get to the Modi-Trump talks? Why don't you walk our viewers through the meetings that Prime Minister Modi has had so far? Who all has he met, and how did those talks go?
That's right. Good afternoon from Washington, D.C. Ramesh, a number of key bilateral meetings had taken place with the head of departments and ministries in the new Trump government here in the United States. It started with Prime Minister Narendra Modi last evening, just after reaching Washington, D.C., meeting Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Intelligence, earlier this morning. He met Michael Waltz, the NSA of the United States. He also had a meeting with Elon Musk. That was a special one. Elon Musk had in fact come with his family and children, so that was a special meeting there. So we see the key leaders in the Trump administration there calling on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Remember, it's a new regime coming into power. Each of the departments directly reaching out to Prime Minister, updating him about their priorities, the manner in which they would want to take the relations and ties with India to the next level. And this is all ahead of the big meeting of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with President Donald Trump at the White House. Number of issues in focus, but what our guests earlier mentioned, that given that the expectations are so high, and this is just the first meeting of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with the new administration, with Trump 2.0 administration, the focus is going to be to get that roadmap in place, which is going to determine the manner in which the two countries, the global strategic partners, are going to chart the next 4 years. So in that sense, those broader contours in focus, but also particular specifics about trade, energy, innovation, and also the word that we've heard so often in the past few days and weeks, tariffs. How are they accommodated in that convergence of thoughts, ideas and action for these two countries?
Now, Shubhendu, I wouldn't want us to second guess what the two principals will discuss, but what are some of the issues that will be foremost in their minds when they sit down for the talks?
Predominantly, we can see, Ramesh, that trade relations between the two countries, first, the high points. America already is the largest trading partner for India, and also if you look at the foreign direct investments, it comes among the top three. In that sense, the bilateral trade engagement is already a very, very significant one. President Trump overall, not specifically with India, has raised concerns about tariffs. We've also seen India making those concessions in the budget. We've seen especially luxury expensive bikes from United States are going to be easier for American manufacturers to export to India. Those tariffs have been brought down. So in that sense, there is a positive vibe between India and United States to take forward the trade relations. There is also the issue of immigration. Those concerns have to be sorted. But remember, what these two countries are known for today are as strategic partners, and the significance that Indo-Pacific acquires in today's time, the manner in which their cooperation is going to be taken forward in this region in particular and at multilateral forums in general, is going to be particularly something that one has to look forward to. The personal rapport, the warmth that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump share for one another, we've seen that on display in Trump 1.0, and in this new government, we'll have to see how that plays out. Those initial visuals of the two leaders meeting, what is their body language going to be, all of that is going to be very, very significant for us to look out for.
Indeed, Shubhendu, since you refer to those meetings that the Prime Minister has had so far,